Revealed how a cleaning lady's amazing actions changed a millionaire's view on life and love. The morning sun rolled in through the tiny kitchen window, casting a warm glow on the faded linoleum floors of Sarah's Chicago apartment. It felt more like the heart of the city than a place to call home. As the clock ticked towards dawn, Sarah woke up. The familiar, comforting sound of her son's sleepy whispers filled the air. "Mama, is it breakfast time yet?" he asked, his bright blue eyes sparkling with the promise of a new day. She felt a swell of love and purpose as she flipped pancakes, listening to Tommy chatter about superheroes. Despite the weight of exhaustion on her shoulders, Sarah held on to her laughter, using it as a shield against the world. Her hands were rough, callous from endless scrubbing and cleaning, but they carried nurturing warmth whenever she wrapped them around her son. Together, they embraced life in their compact space, making memories in the corners of adversity. But that sweltering afternoon changed everything. Sarah found herself upstairs in a lavish penthouse that gleamed with opulence. She wielded her cleaning supplies like a warrior geared up for battle against dust and grime. Then, she stumbled upon him. Grant Harrison, wealthy, suave, and drowning in a public scandal. His perfection was crumbling like the walls of his empire, and for a moment, Sarah couldn't look away. Here was a man on the brink. His face was a storm cloud, brow furrowed, jaw clenched tight. She stood frozen, a cleaning rag in one hand. In that unguarded moment, the air crackled with tension as vulnerability hung around him like a thick fog. It stirred something inside her, igniting a flicker of empathy. For all his riches, he seemed lost. As days turned to weeks, an unlikely friendship formed over steaming cups of coffee in that glimmering penthouse. Grant spoke, and Sarah listened. With every shared story, from his burdens of wealth to her joys of community, they unveiled pieces of their lives. Just like that, amidst the stark contrasts, they found common ground. Happiness was more than just a price tag. But just as swiftly as their friendship blossomed, shadows crept into their lives. The locals began to turn against Grant as his scandal loomed larger than any skyscraper. Sarah felt it too, the disdain in whispering voices when she walked down the street, the anger flaring in the eyes of her neighbors. She was caught in a storm, rocked by the waves of societal judgment, while Grant tried to throw money at his problems. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. And then, it happened. Sarah found herself standing tall, rallying for her community. She stepped up for those silenced, wielding her voice like a beacon. Resilience radiated from her as the fear began to settle in her chest. Her bravery resonated deeply, igniting bold conversations about dignity and work ethic that swept through the streets. But will Grant grasp the lesson she was trying to teach him? Just as he started to understand the value of integrity over wealth, an unforeseen event shook them both to their core, leaving their lives intertwined yet teetering on the edge of chaos. Would Sarah's courage truly inspire a change, or would the tides of expectation drag him back into darkness? What would it take for them both to discover what lay on the other side of uncertainty? Sarah's heart raced as she stepped out onto the cracked pavement of her neighborhood, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The meeting earlier that day had shaken her deeply. Grant's name had come up yet again, this time in a context more threatening than before. Rumors swirled like autumn leaves, and not all of them were harmless. Why are you defending him? He's just a spoiled rich boy trying to buy his way out of trouble. Each voice dripped with contempt, slicing her determination. Her neighbors had turned from allies into strangers, eyes cutting like knives whenever she passed. But she couldn't turn back now. Not when she could see so clearly the change her voice was offering to the community. Every step she took toward the community center felt heavier, yet she pressed on, fueled by her hope for Grant and the people she loved. Inside, a town hall meeting was buzzing with disgruntled voices. The mayor was trying to keep everyone focused, but anger hung in the air like a thick fog. Let us hear from Sarah. Someone shouted unexpectedly, and all eyes turned to her. The heat of the moment wrapped around her, and as she stood, she felt small yet fierce. She cleared her throat, her heart pounding so loudly she feared they could hear it. Grant isn't just some rich guy with a scandal. He's a human being. Just like all of us here. Her voice wavered before she steadied it. He's learning. And we're here to teach him what community means. We can build this together, not tear each other down. The room fell silent for a moment, the weight of her words landing heavily. Disbelief etched across many faces, yet she could see a flicker of curiosity and thought. What could it mean to bring Grant into the fold, rather than push him away? What could that say about them as a community? Have you lost your mind, Sarah? Sneered one of the louder critics. Do you really think you can change someone like him? Her response sprang forth, a rush of clarity. Maybe I can't change him, but I know I can inspire him, and this community needs the same chance. She paused, letting the energy of her words fill the room. A mix of murmurs, resistance, and eagerness bounced around, and she felt a power surging within her. They were listening even if a piece of them remained skeptical. After the meeting, Sarah found herself outside, pacing as the sun dipped below the horizon, the shadows stretching long. The phone buzzed in her pocket. It was Grant. Nervously, she answered. Sarah, his voice came through, a mix of exhaustion and urgency. I need to talk to you. It's about the company and the scandal. It's worse than I thought. Her breath hitched. She could feel the weight of what was to come. What do you mean? She pressed, suddenly anxious. I can't explain it all over the phone. Can we meet? I need you to see what is really happening. I may have made a mistake. There was a heaviness that settled between them, a call for honesty that sent chills down her spine. Okay, where? She was suddenly on edge, her pulse quickening. Can you come to the penthouse tonight? As she hung up, Sarah stared out at the dimming city lights, worry crawling into her heart. Would facing the storm of his truth bring them closer or push them apart? The last rays of sunlight flickered out, leaving her teetering in precarious uncertainty. What lay ahead could either unite them or tear them further apart. And as she took a deep breath, her resolve hardened. Was she ready to face whatever darkness waited in that penthouse? The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, and Sarah stepped into the plush, well-lit lobby of the penthouse building. It felt surreal, like walking onto a movie set. She could almost hear the soundtrack swelling in the background, an ominous blend of tension and hope. Grant had always lived in a world of luxury. She could see the signs even before reaching his door. The smooth marble floors gleamed under bright lights, reflecting a lifestyle she could hardly imagine. As she approached his door, an unsettling cocktail of hope and dread churned in her stomach. She raised her hand to knock but hesitated. What awaited her inside? Would the Grant she sought to understand be waiting on the other side, or would she find a man swallowed whole by the very scandal she had fought to defend? Taking a steadying breath, she knocked lightly. After a moment, the door swung open, and there he was, Grant, his face drawn tight with worry, but his eyes pierced through with a glimmer of something deeper. Sarah, he said, almost breathless. Thanks for coming. She stepped inside, feeling the vastness of his penthouse wrap around her, the exquisite decor both overwhelming and impractical. I wouldn't be here if I was worried about you, she replied, her voice steadying as he closed the door behind her. Let me show you something, he said, leading her to a sleek living area overlooking the city. The skyline glimmered like a sea of stars below them. He handed her a tablet, his hand slightly trembling. It's all there, he said. Everything I've been trying to keep under wraps. There are people involved, people I never wanted to drag into this. She glanced down at the screen, her heart sinking as the revelations unfurled before her. Names she recognized mixed with financial figures that made her head spin. This is a lot, she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know, Sarah. I thought I could manage it, control it. But it spiraled. I was too focused on the money, the status, and I thought I could fix things by throwing cash at problems. He paused, running a hand through his hair, frustration and regret etched across his brow. That's why I called you. I pushed you away for so long, and now, I realize that I need more than just money. I need help. Emotions surged within Sarah. She had been fighting for him, yet here he was admitting his faults, exposing the cracks in his carefully built facade. Grant, this is serious. You have to talk to someone. You need to show them you want to change, she urged, the weight of the situation heavy in the air. I want to, he said, his voice softening almost to a plea. But I'm scared of what they'll think. They'll see me as a failure, as that spoiled rich kid again. Sarah took a step closer, closing the distance between them. But you're not that kid, not anymore. You want to be better, and you have the power to make it happen. Let the community in. Let them help you. A flicker of gratitude crossed his eyes, and for a brief moment, she caught a glimpse of the man she hoped he could become. But as quickly as it appeared, doubt crept in, dimming the brightness of that hope. Could he truly change? And would the community accept him after everything? Just then, his phone buzzed on the table, and the tension in the room shifted. Grant looked down, his expression faltering as he read the message. It's the board. They want to meet tomorrow morning. They know something is up. A chill swept through her. Will they give you the chance to explain? I don't know. Maybe it's too late for that. Sarah's heart raced. Grant was standing on the edge of a precipice, and she couldn't shake the feeling that this meeting could either save him or plunge him into an abyss. You can't give up, she whispered, knowing the gravity of that moment. As they stood together, the skyline behind them painted in hues of dusk, Sarah realized that this was more than just about Grant. It was about redemption, not just for him but for her community too. They needed to believe in the possibility of change, but as the night wore on, she couldn't shake the lingering questions. Was Grant strong enough to face those who had turned against him? Did he truly understand the cost of his actions? The future loomed uncertain, and hope wavered like a candle fighting against a growing storm. Tomorrow could change everything either way. And as Sarah left the penthouse feeling both exhilarated and uneasy, she knew one thing for sure: it was now time for Grant to step into the light. Would he? The cool morning air brushed against Sarah's skin as she walked briskly to the corner cafe, her mind racing with thoughts of Grant. The sun had barely risen, casting a soft glow across the city, but her heart felt heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. Today was pivotal, a point of no return. Inside the cafe, the comforting aroma of brewing coffee and freshly baked pastries wrapped around her like a warm hug. She ordered a strong cup, trying to steady her nerves. As she waited, she stole glances out the window, scanning for any sign of Grant. The thought of him facing the board without her felt unbearable, but she knew he had to stand on his own. Moments later, the door swung open, and in stepped Grant, looking every bit the part of a man on a mission. His crisp suit reflected his usual polished self, yet there was a vulnerability in his stride that made her heart clench. He made his way to her, a mix of gratitude and apprehension flooding his features. Hey, he said softly, his eyes searching hers. Thanks for being here. You need to hear what they say, but you also need to speak your truth, she reminded him, handing him the coffee she had ordered. This is your moment to show them you've changed. That you want to make things right. He nodded, but Sarah could see the worry creasing his forehead. What if they don't believe me? What if it's too late? Then you fight, she said firmly. You don't stop until they see the real you. As he took a sip of coffee, she noticed his hand tremble ever so slightly, the mug wobbling between his fingers. She reached out, placing her hand over his, steadying him. It was a small gesture but filled with meaning, a promise of support. I never thought I would be here, he murmured. It's a long way from the guy who thought money could solve everything. And that guy isn't who you are anymore, she replied, her voice filled with conviction. You're different, Grant. You're ready to own your mistakes, and that's the first step. They shared a moment of silence, letting the gravity of the day settle between them. It wasn't just about the board meeting, it was about his entire journey. Every choice led him here, standing on the cusp of something transformative. I could screw this up, he finally said, his voice low, barely above a whisper. But you could also surprise yourself, Sarah retorted, a spark of hope igniting within her. "You're stronger than you think. I believe in you." After finishing their coffee, Sarah took a deep breath, forcing herself to quell the rising anxiety. Together, they stepped outside into the bustling streets. The city was alive, people rushing past in their own worlds, unaware of the monumental moment about to unfold. As they arrived at the imposing building that housed the boardroom, Grant paused, his eyes riveted to the entrance. "This is it," he said, a swirl of emotions playing across his face. "Remember why you're here," Sarah urged, placing her hand gently on his arm. "Not just for you, but for everyone you've affected. They need to witness your sincerity. You can do this." "Together?" he asked, the tremor in his voice replaced by a hint of determination. "Always," she affirmed, taking a step toward the door. In that instant, the weight of their past and the flicker of their future felt both exhilarating and terrifying. As they crossed the threshold into the boardroom, Sarah's heart raced. She knew the stakes were high, and the path ahead was uncertain. Grant had to brave the storm, but she couldn't shake the feeling that all their fears and hopes were about to collide. Would he find the strength to rise above his past or fall back into the shadows? Only time would tell. The boardroom was intimidating, a cavernous space filled with polished wood and intimidating portraits of the company's founders. The air was thick with expectation, and the muted buzz of conversation faded into silence as Grant stepped forward. His heart thundered in his chest, drowning out everything else. This was where it all would unfold, the place where his past would be scrutinized under harsh lights. The long table was lined with stern faces, and he could feel their eyes piercing through him, searching for signs of weakness. But Sarah's voice echoed in his mind, a mantra of strength. "Speak your truth," he whispered to himself as he took a deep breath, amplifying every ounce of courage he had left. "Mr. Adams," one of the board members began, a balding man with a grim expression. "Let us cut to the chase. We're here because your recent actions have raised serious concerns about your leadership. We need to know if you can still stand by this company's values." The collective gaze sharpened as the question settled in the air, a challenge he couldn't afford to shy away from. Grant straightened, feeling Sarah's presence beside him. "I understand your concerns," he started, his voice steadier than he felt. "But I believe I can show you I've changed. These past months have been a journey for me, one I didn't anticipate, but one I needed." He glanced at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly, sensing his rising apprehension. Something clicked within him, a realization that this was not just about the board but about standing up for himself, and for the people affected by his past decisions. "What decisions are you referring to?" A woman at the end of the table snapped, skepticism etched on her face. "How do we know this isn't just another sales pitch?" Grant hesitated, then plunged in. "I've made mistakes, big ones. I prioritized profits over people. I took shortcuts, thinking I could overcome my flaws with wealth. After a series of setbacks, I finally realized that was only a facade. I'm ready to embrace accountability, to rebuild the trust once shattered." Murmurs broke out among the board members, uncertainty evident in their expressions. He felt a flicker of hope. "But can you really change?" the bald man pressed. "Words are one thing, actions are another. I've started by looking beyond myself," Grant explained, his pulse quickening. "I've committed to community work and invested in programs to support those who, like me, have lost their way. My passion now lies in giving back, not just obtaining." A flicker of surprise crossed the board's faces. Was there something deeper behind the suit? Could this man truly be transformed? "Walk us through a specific example," a younger board member challenged, pen poised over a notepad. Grant felt the weight of their scrutiny but pressed on, recounting his recent volunteer work at a local shelter, the stories of those he'd met, the tears shed and lessons learned. As he spoke, the tension in the room seemed to shift, his sincerity resonated. "Change isn't easy. I'm not asking for forgiveness, but understanding," he concluded, his voice laden with emotion. "I want to be a leader who inspires, not fears. I want to do right, not just say the words." The silence that followed felt electric. Just when he thought he might have struck a chord, Another board member leaned in. "You've painted a compelling picture, Mr. Adams. But how can we be sure you won't backslide? What guarantees can you offer?" Grant's heart sank. He had no guarantees, only a commitment to be better. He glanced at Sarah again, who wore a mixture of encouragement and worry on her face. "While I can't promise perfection, I can promise transparency and a willingness to keep evolving," he said. "But I need your support too, not just as a board but as partners in change." His words hung heavily in the air, the board's faces stony. He could sense the gravity of the moment, the leap of faith they would need to take to trust him. But just then, the door swung open again. This time, a cleaning lady stepped in, completely unaware of the storm brewing in the room. Her eyes darted about, and for a brief moment, it felt like the breath of fresh air that shimmers before a big change. "Excuse me? I think you might want to hear what I have to say," she said, her voice steady yet unassuming. Sarah and Grant exchanged a glance. Who was this woman, and what could she possibly add to their already tense situation? As the room turned its focus on her, a prickling sense of anticipation filled the air. Was it possible that this unexpected voice would be the key to unlocking the truth and changing everything? The board members turned, shuffling slightly in their chairs, as if intrigued yet confused. The cleaning lady stood there, clutching her mop like a lifeline, her uniform slightly wrinkled but her stance firm. There was a softness in her eyes, but also an undeniable strength. "You're here for a reason," she continued, her voice rising above the low murmurs, "to make decisions that affect people's lives." She paused, taking a breath, grounding herself. "I've seen how businesses like yours can shine or darken communities. You represent a lot, not just bottom lines and profits. You decide if people will thrive or merely survive." Grant couldn't help but feel a rush of gratitude wash over him. Here was someone so plainly insightful, yet overlooked, standing up to make a point that resonated deeply with him. "Let her speak," Sarah encouraged, her eyes bright, invigorated by the woman's courage. The cleaning lady took a step forward, seemingly finding her rhythm. "I clean this building every day, and I see the faces of the people who work here. I see their joy and despair. I hear their stories as they pass by, snippets of pride about their jobs and whispers of frustrations about management decisions. People are affected by choices made in this room just as much as they are, sometimes more." The board seemed taken aback, exchanging glances filled with surprise and confusion. Grant felt the tension rise again. Would they be defensive, irritated by an unsolicited interruption, or something else entirely? "I had a son who struggled to find his way, just like many of your employees," she said, her voice unwavering. "He fell into bad circles, lost his job because there was no support from those above him. He thought success was just about making money. It took a while, but he learned it was much more than that. It's about being accountable, about valuing people for who they are, not just what they can produce." Her honesty hung in the air, tangible in its rawness. Grant felt the eyes of the board shift back to him, their skepticism blending with something deeper, perhaps understanding or vulnerability. "Each of you has the power to change lives," the woman continued unabated. "Mr. Adams, I see your heart, and your desire to do better. But remember, words are easy, action is what holds weight. Don't just say you care, show it. You will have the chance to make a difference." A hush fell over the boardroom. Grant's heart pounded, not just from the adrenaline, but from something deeper. It felt like a shared heartbeat in the room, a collective understanding of the power they possessed. "What you're saying is incredibly brave," one of the board members spoke up, breaking the silence. "And perhaps it is worth reflecting upon. Maybe it's time we talked not only about business values but also about human values." Sure enough, the cleaning lady seemed to inspire something new, a thread of hope weaving through the tensioned fabric of the meeting. Rather than dismissing her, they seemed to be opening up. "Thank you for sharing that with us," Grant said, feeling a rush of courage ignite inside him. "You're right, we need to make real commitments, not just for profits but for the people behind them." The cleaning lady nodded, relief washing over her as she felt the room shift. "We can help each other. Just give it a chance." As she turned to leave, Humbled yet empowered, Grant felt the air in the room vibrate with promise. A new path might be unfolding right here, right now. Before we wrap up, the young board member spoke again, a spark of animation in his voice. Let us talk about actionable support programs we can put in place. Inspired by what she just said, but just as they were about to dive deeper into this discussion, a loud crash echoed from behind them. The door burst open yet again, and a figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the light. All eyes snapped toward the new arrival. The tension in the room snapped taut once more. Who was this new person, and why had they chosen this moment to interrupt? Grant felt every heartbeat heavy with anticipation, wondering if this would lead them to the change they had glimpsed just moments ago, or lead them further into chaos. In the doorway stood a figure drenched in sunlight, casting a long shadow across the polished floor. Everyone froze, eyes fixed on the intruder. The office air thickened, uncertainty mounting. "Rachel!" Grant's voice broke the stunned silence. It was his sister, her disheveled hair and wild eyes hinting at urgency. She clutched a folder against her chest, one that seemed the embodiment of a storm brewing just behind her. "Grant, I need to talk to you. Now!" She pushed her way into the room, her gaze darting around, taking in the unusual setting. The unexpected moment pulled everyone's attention away from the cleaning lady's impactful speech, leaving a palpable mix of confusion and concern behind. "Rachel, is everything all right?" Worry pinched at Grant's heart. He remembered all too well the last time urgency came with her name. He stepped forward, mindful of the silence heavy in the air. "Everything is complicated," she whispered, lowering her voice but still speaking with an unmistakable urgency. "It's Mom. She has been trying to reach you, but—" She hesitated, her hand squeezing the folder tightly. Grant felt unease twist in his stomach. "What happened?" "Her health is not good. The doctors are concerned. She's in the hospital." The impact of her words hit him like a sucker punch. Grant's heart raced as the chaos of the boardroom faded. He couldn't help but feel everything he had been fighting for at work suddenly seemed trivial next to his family. The board members shifted uncomfortably, the tension winding tighter as they processed the sister's revelation. Their previous discussion about accountability and human values felt distant now, overshadowed by feelings of dread. "Are you sure?" he asked, biting back the swell of emotions inside him. Rachel nodded, her brow furrowed in concern. "I didn't want to do this here, but I couldn't wait." Rachel faltered, glancing back at the board members, who began murmuring among themselves, the cleaning lady forgotten for the moment. "Grant," she continued, her voice trembling, "you need to go. Now. I can't do this alone. We need you." His mind flashed back to the cleaning lady's words, about accountability, about valuing those around him. In that moment, he realized that true connections were essential, not just in the office, but at home with his family. "Grant, you have to decide," Sarah piped up, showing genuine empathy. "We can handle this meeting without you. Your family needs you right now." Holding Rachel's stare, Grant felt the weight of her concern, the warmth that adventure expertise had brought into the boardroom now giving way to fear. He was torn, wanting to remain and press forward with a new vision, but knowing he had a duty to his family. The vivid contrast of corporate ambition and familial duty crashed against his heart like waves against rocks. "Let us take a 5-minute break," the chairperson interjected, hoping to ease the storm brewing among the members. Grant's mind swirled as he glanced around the room. Would they understand this moment of vulnerability? "Go, Grant," the cleaning lady's voice rang through the stillness as she stepped forward again. "Family is everything. Don't let business blind you to what truly matters. Those decisions you're making can wait." He nodded slowly, feeling a bond of solidarity with her, a shared understanding that sometimes life forced choices upon us that left an imprint far deeper than profits or losses. "Thank you," he said softly. "I'll be back." With one last look at Rachel, Grant stepped toward the door, leaving the meeting and the potential for change to chase after the fears pulling at him. Just as he reached for the handle, the door swung shut behind him, leaving the silent weight of his absence hanging in the air, a moment that could shift everything in their lives. What awaited him on the other side? Would family ties shift the way he viewed not only business, but what it meant to truly care about others? Grant took a deep breath as he stepped out of the boardroom, the weight of Rachel's words heavy on his heart. The world outside felt starkly different, as if he had emerged from a portal into a vibrant, chaotic realm where his family's pain bumped against the starkness of corporate ambitions. Each step toward the elevator felt like 1,000 echoes of unmade decisions trailing behind him, urging him forward. Rachel stood beside him, her nervous energy palpable. Her eyes searched his face for reassurance, but all he felt was a churning mix of dread and a desperate need to protect. As the elevator doors closed, their reflections faded into the polished steel, just like the quiet murmurs of the boardroom left behind. "Do you know what's going on?" he finally asked, bracing himself for her answer. She shook her head, her voice trembling as she spoke. "I don't know all the details. She sounded different on the phone. Mom is scared, Grant. And I don't think it's just the usual worries." His pulse quickened. The memories came flooding back, her laughter, the gentle nudges of encouragement that fueled his dreams. But now, the thought of her being vulnerable, weak, it was too much. Grant wanted to shake it off, to deny what he had just heard, but the truth weighed like a stone in his chest. "Mom's always been so strong," he whispered, grappling with the tidal wave of emotions. "This can't be happening." The elevator pinged as they reached the ground floor. As they stepped into the bustling lobby, the world outside felt sharp and loud, a stark contrast to the whirlwind inside him. People rushed by, focused, unaware of the internal turmoil pulling at Grant's heart. "Let us get to the hospital," Rachel urged, her voice breaking through his haze. They hurried toward the exit, the sunlight outside a harsh reminder of the brightness he now desperately sought to shield from the darkness enveloping his family. In the car, Rachel was silent, gripping the handle where the pain of uncertainty knotted their hands together. "Do you remember that time we went to visit her after she got sick a couple of years ago?" Rachel finally broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. "She was so terrified, but we made her laugh, and it made everything feel all right, just for a moment." Grant nodded, fighting the swell of tears. "Yeah, I remember." He could picture the way their mother's face lit up, the way laughter filled the space, driving away the darkness. They needed that again, together, as a family. The memory was a fragile thread woven through the thick silence. Each moment brought them closer to the hospital, yet deeper into a reality both had been trying to outrun. As they parked, the building loomed ahead, sterile, cold. "Grant," Rachel said, her voice quaking like leaves caught in the wind. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together. Just like we always do." Stepping into the imposing hospital lobby, the sterile smell hit them, and the frantic rhythm of life and death buzzed around them. It felt like a cruel reminder. Each click of heels on the floor echoed as Grant and Rachel approached the reception desk, their hearts pounding as they prepared to ask for news. We're here to see our mom, Linda," Rachel blurted, her voice trembling slightly. The receptionist peered over her glasses, her expression lacking any warmth. Grant's stomach dropped at the coldness of her demeanor, bracing for words that could change everything. But before the receptionist could answer, a nurse rushed past them, her face flushed and the look in her eyes fierce with urgency. "Code blue in room 204. She called out, and the world around Grant went silent. His breath caught in his throat. "Room 204? That was Mom's room." "Grant, we need to," Rachel started, but he didn't hear her. He was already moving, propelled by a force greater than fear, love for his mother, determination to be there, to fight alongside her. However he could doubt, he burst toward the hallway, fear racing alongside resolve. What if he couldn't save her this time? What could he do? Standing on the threshold of uncertainty, he pushed through, searching for her, praying she would smile, that they could find that laughter again. In that moment, everything rested on the line, and he felt a voice whispering to him, Jack's last words. Nothing mattered more than family, but could they really handle what lay ahead? Grant sprinted down the fluorescent-lit corridor, the sounds of his footsteps drowning out the haunting echo of the nurse's words. His heart raced, pounding against his ribcage like a drum, and urgency fueling his every move. Rachel's voice faded behind him, but he could feel her presence, a steady anchor even as dread threatened to pull him under. Room 204 came into view, the door slightly ajar. Clarity surged through him as he approached, each step heavier than the last. What would he find waiting on the other side? His mother, who had always been a pillar of strength, now in a place where she might need him even more than he needed her. "Mom!" he shouted as he pushed through the door, panic bleeding into his voice. The room was chaotic. A flurry of nurses surrounded his mother's bed, their voices overlapping, urgent, yet frustratingly unintelligible. Machines beeped, the steady rhythm derailing his hope. He caught a glimpse of her frail form, her usually vibrant face now pale against the stark white sheets. As the medical staff worked, time seemed to stretch, the seconds blurring into each other, solidifying his sense of helplessness. "Get out!" a nurse shouted, her focus directed at him, a plea mixed with impatience. But he couldn't leave. He couldn't turn away. Not now. This was his mother. He would do whatever it took to be there for her. Ignoring her command, Grant moved closer, not caring about the rules, the protocols, the chaos. "How is she?" His voice came out hoarse, scarcely above a whisper. "She is stable, but we need to work quickly." "Please wait outside," another nurse said, her voice softer but laced with urgency. Grant's gut twisted. Stable? What did that even mean? Rachel finally caught up, breathless. "Grant, we have to know." He cut her off, desperation spilling over. "We can't just stand by. She needs us." "Grant?" Rachel's hand took his, grounding him momentarily. Her eyes glistened with tears. "It's going to be okay. Let them do their job. She wouldn't want us to be here, feeling like this." Pain shot through him at her words, a mixture of frustration and fear. The team was working methodically now, but Grant felt paralyzed, the terror of losing her clawing at his insides. In that moment of wild panic, a figure emerged from the periphery, a cleaning lady, bucket in tow, her scrubs matching the sterile environment. She paused, observing the scene with something resembling empathy. Though she was an outsider in this turmoil, her presence brought an unexpected comfort. "Sir," she said softly, her accent thick yet soothing. "Keep faith. Love makes the strongest medicine. She can feel you here even if you're not saying it." Grant looked up, startled by her words. How could a stranger know the depth of his heart right now? It was as if she had taken a snapshot of his soul and whispered back the truth he needed to hear. Just then, another nurse emerged, her face slightly less tense. "She's responding," the nurse announced, glancing at the cleaning lady. "But keep it quiet for now, she needs to rest." The cleaning lady smiled warmly at Grant and Rachel before continuing her task. The world felt both huge and claustrophobic. Grant's heart ached for his mother, and the myriad of emotions swirling around them. Rachel squeezed his hand tighter. "We'll get through this," she said, firm and steady. As they stood together, waiting in silence, the realization hit Grant like a wave. His mother's resilience had always inspired them to keep fighting. What if all they had left to do was channel their love, just as that cleaning lady had suggested? Just then, a sudden commotion erupted from inside the room. Alarms blared, voices elevated. Panic surged again. Grant and Rachel exchanged a panicked glance. "Mom!" he shouted, the word ricocheting off the walls. What was happening? Was this the unraveling he feared? The door burst open, bringing him face to face with the doctor. His expression was grave. "Mr. and Miss Harper, we need to talk now." Their worst fears were about to unfold, and Grant braced himself for whatever was next. What would the truth reveal? The hospital room buzzed with anxiety as Grant and Rachel followed the doctor into a small consultation area, their hearts pounding in their chests. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered ominously, amplifying the tension that gripped them. The doctor's grim face hinted at the weighty news they were about to bear. "Your mother is stable for now," he began, his tone professional yet softened by urgency. "But her condition is serious. She needs immediate care that can only be provided with a treatment plan, and we're going to have to act quickly." Grant felt a lump in his throat. He had prepared for the worst, but hearing it reframed his fears into sharp reality. Rachel squeezed Grant's hand. "What can we do?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly as she fought to maintain composure. The doctor nodded, appreciation evident in his eyes. "We need her to be surrounded by family. Your presence is vital. She'll draw strength from seeing you." The doctor laid out the treatment plan, words blending into a whirl of medical jargon, but Grant's focus drifted away. All he could think about was his mother's warmth, her laughter, and the times she decomforted him when life felt like a never-ending cycle of stress. "We will do whatever it takes," he finally said, the conviction burning bright. With that, they returned to the room. As they approached the door, Grant took a deep breath, heart racing. He stepped forward first, and there she was, his mother, lying on the bed, fragile yet remarkably present. Her face, usually vibrant and full of light, looked pale against the stark white sheets. "Mom!" he exclaimed, rushing to her side. He took her hand gently, the familiar warmth reminding him of family ties that held him together. Her eyes fluttered open, and a soft smile graced her lips. "Oh, my babies," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm so glad you're here." They gathered around her, each word exchanged slowly bleeding away the heaviness. "We're not going anywhere," Rachel promised, her voice thick with emotion. Grant stared into his mother's eyes, feeling a rush of gratitude, heartache, and resolute determination. "Mom, we're fighting for you," he said firmly, channeling everything he had into those words. "You taught us that family is everything. We're here as a team." Tears welled in her eyes as she squeezed their hands. "And you two are the reason I still fight," she replied, her tone a blend of strength and joy. In that moment, everything crystallized. Grant thought of the cleaning lady, her voice echoing in his mind, reminding him of love's powerful hold. To have a family fighting together, regardless of the chaos surrounding them, was transformative. It was not just about him anymore. It was about building a legacy of endurance and connection. Time passed as they shared stories, laughter breaking through the heaviness, a balm soothing their collective fears. Every chuckle felt like a victory over uncertainty, reigniting the spark of hope. Grant knew they were doing this together, and that his loyalty wouldn't waver. 2 weeks later, the sun blazed brightly as Grant stood at the entrance of the community center he had once been ashamed of neglecting. An air of excitement filled the place. Locals had gathered, waiting for his arrival. Stepping forward, he squared his shoulders, heart racing with purpose. "Thank you for being here," he announced, his voice steady. The crowd quieted, all eyes on him, curiosity mixed with skepticism. "I want to be transparent," he continued, feeling the weight of their expectations. "I made mistakes, but I've learned that my biggest failure was thinking money could do all the work. What we truly need are connections, values, and community support." The crowd murmured, and he saw glances traded between friends, hope starting to shimmer amidst the doubt. "I want to invest in real change, connections that uplift. My family has faced unimaginable hardships, and through that, we realized what really matters." The crowd began to lean in, listening, and something shifted within him. It was time to stop running from what had once embarrassed him. "I need your help," he continued, optimism cracking through his walls. "Will you stand with me?" The crowd erupted, cheers filling the center like a warm embrace. Amidst the celebration, he found Sarah's warm smile cutting through the chaos. She stepped forward, eyes sparkling, filling him with reassurance. This new chapter was emerging together. "It's time to change how we see each other," she encouraged, "not just as individuals but as a community. We can do this." Hand in hand, with the spirit of the cleaning lady echoing in his mind, they took a step toward creating transformation. Perhaps the journey was just beginning, but the strength they drew from one another proved unbreakable. As they walked out into the sunlight, Grant felt exhilarated, an overwhelming sense of purpose flooding him. He had regained control not just of his life or business, but of his heart, family, and the people he was destined to inspire. His voice would be heard, and together, they could do wonders. This was a new dawn not just for him, but for all of them an inspiration painted into the fabric of their community, woven together through love and resilience. And as the community buzzed with fresh energy, a simple call echoed in the air: their time had come. Now more than ever, it was a chance to connect, to uplift, and to stand united. In your life, embrace the moments that awaken your heart. Stand up for love, family, and community. The change rests in your hands. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.